Welcome back to the CryptoLabs YouTube channel. We had a few questions regarding the correlation matrix. Is correlation actually important? We are going to simplify that. We're going to use BNB Fetch as an example, which, Colin, that's been a pretty good performer for you, correct?
Yeah, it has. Yeah, I've been in for a few weeks.
Sweet.
And yeah, if I could just dive right in, Lucas, because I got a lot to cover. Yeah, I got a lot to cover in this video here. We actually did. I went live today in our community for my crypto education call.
It was like an hour long.
Yeah, it went longer than I thought it was going to be, but because there was so much stuff that I wanted to communicate, and I'm going to try to condense it down for us here on YouTube today, is that when we're getting into liquidity pools, there are a series of criteria. And actually, Lucas, let me share my screen. I think this will be more visual for everybody. I think this is so vastly important here. I'm going to go to the DeFi Portfolio Challenge, DeFi missions, a little behind the scenes action here, liquidity pool entry criteria. And in this liquidity pool entry criteria, we want to condense down and look at why would I want to enter these liquidity pools. And you should be saying no to the vast majority of opportunities. But this entry pool, this liquidity pool entry criteria will give you a series of things to look at and investigate and analyze prior to entry. Okay, so before you take your capital that you've worked so hard for and you put it inside this asset here, we want to take a look at a series of things. And number 3 is the correlation. And this is really what I wanted to focus on today. The correlation, very simply here, is are the two assets that you're providing as liquidity inside of a liquidity pool, are they moving in tandem with each other in terms of price action? This does not mean the price, like the dollar value of the assets. What it means is the price action, meaning moving up in value and moving down in value. And what I mean by correlation is we ideally want these two assets to be moving together. And so I do this kind of a little bit of a dance here. We want these assets to be moving together in price action. And there's an incredible tool, Lucas. It's DeFi Llama, and I'm sure the YouTube community has seen this before, but I'll kind of hop over here. DeFiLlama.com, all the way on the bottom here on the left, you'll see correlation, and up it will pop a correlation matrix. And what we're looking for is we're wanting to type in the assets we're looking for, and we're trying to decide and figure out and analyze are these two assets moving together in price action? Are they correlated with each other? And so what I'll do is I'm just going to search Fetch here, and I'm going to get the two assets we're looking at. So we're looking at BNB and Fetch, and what DeFi Llama does a great job of is it takes 3 different time frames for us to look at. The 7-day time frame, so kind of a shorter time frame, a 1-month time frame, a 30-day time frame, and then a 1-year time frame. Now, 1-year time frame is okay to look at. It's just in crypto and DeFi, it's such a long time period.
Like a decade.
It doesn't really help us much. So really what we focus on is the 7-day and the 1-month correlation matrix. Now, a little joke that I have is the brighter the green, the better. And what that indicates is that the closer to a positive 1.0 that we get, the more tightly correlated these two assets are. Okay. Reason why we want it to be, let me stop here, Lucas, because I think this is important. The reason why we want them to be correlated is because when we're setting a range, and this is actually the range that I'm in currently, not financial advice, just I wanted a visual here, is that when you price two moving assets in each other, meaning, Fetch is the base and asset and BNB is the quote asset as an example, is that if they are correlated in price, it'll create a nice sideways channel, right? Because if BNB and Fetch are moving together and they're very correlated, it's actually just going to be moving sideways on the chart. When you see these massive spikes upwards or massive spikes downwards, what that's telling us is that one of the assets is moving strongly in one direction where the other one is not. And so again, when we're providing liquidity, we want a nice sideways range. And that's actually a part of our criteria here. It's the next one, which is the trend, not what we're going to talk about today, but ideally we want a nice sideways channel when we're looking at liquidity pools, especially with two volatile assets here, two moving assets. And so with this channel here, you can see that there's a nice sideways channel starting to form. And then when we compare that with the correlation on the 7-day at a 0.89, that's very close to a positive 1.0, which tells us, when we go back to our criteria, is that we're looking for at least a positive 0.5. Anything above a positive 0.5 tells us, yeah, these are correlated. But the brighter the green, the more close to a 1.0 is the tighter correlated they are.
And if someone's wondering, wait, how does this make me more money? I think it simplifies the tracking.
Yes.
And if the markets just went parabolic and BNB and Fetch is both just freaking going green and they're both rallying and they're both increasing in value, your pool will increase in value and it will limit the amount of impermanent loss you could see. If you were in a pair that was not so correlated and BNB rips, but your USDC obviously doesn't because it'll never be correlated. So BNB and USDC would only be correlated if BNB just literally just stayed the same price for the last 7 or 1 month. You'd see a pretty close correlation. But if BNB is ripping and USDC is not, then you're going to see impermanent loss and you wouldn't get the full benefit of the BNB price increase. Whereas if you're in something correlated and they both start going up in value and they stay correlated, you'll be earning fees and your pool value will be skyrocketing. So you get the best of both worlds. In bullish times, correlation is super solid.
Absolutely. Yeah, you nailed it right there. It's the impermanent loss figure, which I could go down a rabbit hole. Like this is what I do on my live streams, but this is a really important piece of that. When we're setting a range here, it's really important to look for those sideways channels, what Lucas is talking about, because if one moves drastically to one side, what that does is it changes the ratio inside of your liquidity pool. So the mechanics, the education and the mechanics of the assets inside of the liquidity pool are really important. Because as of right now, if the price right here is closer to the bottom end, I don't know, and I'll probably be more heavily in Fetch. But if the price starts to rise here and it starts to get closer to here, the ratio of these assets start to shift. And that's with the shift of the ratio of these assets, that's where impermanent loss comes in. And so two things that a tight correlation will help us with, Lucas mentioned the first one, which is impermanent loss, the reduction of impermanent loss, and it allows us to see that price appreciation. But then number two, it's you'll stay in range a lot longer, which is ideally what we're looking for, right? We want to stay in range for as long as we can. And so if it's a really tight correlation, well, it allows us to tighten our ranges, which means we earn more fees while allowing it to stay in range. If it's moving drastically up and down, well, we have to widen our range, which means less fees. So that's ideally what we're looking for here with correlation. And the last thing, Lucas, I'll say is that, again, we're looking at the 7-day, shorter time frame, but then we also want to zoom out just a little bit, and it'll give us a little bit more information. Here, it's 0.63. So it's still above our criteria of positive 0.5, but it's a little less correlated on the 1 month than it is on the 7-day. And so for me, when I'm entering this pool with entry criteria, this pool specifically does check the two boxes of yes, it's correlated on the 1 month and it's more positively correlated on the 7-day, which tells me even more recently, these two assets are moving in tandem with each other in price action. So Lucas, I know that was a lot of information, but that is a very, very important piece of the overall entry criteria. One more time, this is an analysis you do prior to getting into the pool. Once you're in the pool, you still want to pay attention to the correlation, because what that tells you is that are they remaining to be correlated in price action, or are they becoming divergent? When they become divergent, that means that obviously one of the assets is moving to the upside or downside, but moving, and the other one is not moving in accordance with that. That divergence increases impermanent loss risk, and it might push you out of range. And so it's not something to freak out about. It's just something to monitor while you're in that pool. So Lucas, hopefully that was valuable to
knowledge is power. I think if you don't know this, then you don't know what decisions to make when you start seeing things go in different directions. You're like, I don't know what to do, so I'll just do something crazy, or I'll trust my gut. But if you know what's happening and you're like, oh, impermanent loss, divergence loss, oh, I understand the correlation, you can make, in my mind, better decisions, educated decisions rather than guessing or panicking. So thank you, Colin. I'm sure there's still some questions. So let's do this. In the comments below, if you're still watching and you're like, I still got questions, leave them in the comments below. We're going to scrub the questions, our comments, and we're going to make videos based on the questions you ask. You can also join the free DeFi group. It's called DeFi as a Business. It's a free course. We cover a lot of this in the DeFi as a business course, so please join it. We talk about entry, exit, and a bunch of awesome stuff, risks of yield farming, all that. Link will be in the description, or just let me know in the comments. And with that said, like this video, subscribe to this channel, and I'll leave 4 videos on the screen for your viewing pleasures. We'll talk a little bit more about correlation in one of the videos. We'll actually show real-life examples of pools, how to build a DeFi business. We're in some positions that, one position, there's a video here, is literally doing 10K a month. That's one position. You can check that video out. study this stuff, spend a few hours on this YouTube channel. And with that said, we'll see you in the next video. Peace.